From the heart of Hawkeye Nation comes the show that dissects the plays, debates the calls, and celebrates the victories. This isn't just a podcast. This is your unfiltered access to the mind of two diehard fans. They live and breathe black and gold, and they're here to give you the honest, raw takes you won't find anywhere else. Get ready for deep dive analysis, passionate debate, and a unique perspective on the team you love. This is Punting is Winning with JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye sports fans, to another episode of Punting is Winning, your all Iowa podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Keith. He's JD. Welcome back to another week. Thankfully, a bye week, last bye week of the year. First, let's take care of the question of the week last week. Question of the week last week was, what is your favorite candy bar from Halloween? And it doesn't necessarily have to be Halloween. I mean, just whatever your favorite is. Had some responses. Don't necessarily need to go into those. I mean, what was your favorite?
Oh, I'm a Reese's guy. I love Reese's peanut butter cups, and then you'd have to follow those up with like an Almond Joy or something like that. I love that chocolate and coconut. I know a lot of people don't. It's just kind of I don't know if it's a texture thing. It is a texture thing and a little bit of a taste thing. I don't know. You just can't beat Reese's. The standard.
See, if I'm going to do the chocolate and coconut, I'm probably going to do the Mounds because I think that's the milk chocolate one instead of the dark chocolate.
It is also the dark chocolate.
Oh, the Mounds is?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's
the Almond Joy is the milk chocolate with the almond in it.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. That's the one I like of the two.
Yeah.
Personally, I like the Reese's as well, but I'm more of a Heath.
Yeah.
And I like Kit Kat and Milk Duds, Starbursts. Really, there's not a lot of candy that I don't like, which is probably a bad thing for me.
Yeah. I'd rather have a Twix than a Kit Kat personally, but that's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Twix sometimes just depends on my mood. Butterfinger, Hershey's with almonds, it just depends on my mood.
I tell you what, that a lot of people like that I'm just not a big fan of, and that's Three Musketeers. I don't know why. Maybe it was because I was a little kid. That was the big candy bar when I was young 50 years ago and doing this. And I think I probably ate more than I should have that night. And I think from that point forward, I just haven't had a taste for that. Sometimes those things.
I'm not as big a fan of the Three Musketeers either. I like Milky Way, but the Three Musketeers, not so much.
Right.
And then I always like the salted nut rolls too.
Oh yeah. I definitely like those too. I get those pretty frequently actually.
And back in the day, there was the Zero bar, the white chocolate with the nougat. That's always pretty good too.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on. Question of the week this week, brought to you by one of our listeners who said, if you had to choose a different fight song than the one that you currently have for your team, what fight song would that be that you would prefer to have? And I can tell you right now, one that I would never want to have is the USC fight song, because I got so sick and tired of hearing that over the weekend that I never want to hear it again.
Yeah, and that thing down at Florida State where they do that tomahawk chop, whatever that thing is, that I can't do. I guess Notre Dame, Michigan, Oklahoma, those are kind of like the big ones people tend to gravitate towards. I don't know. I would probably, if I had to pick of those three, I'd probably take Michigan's. I like that one.
Yeah, I think Hail to the Victors is a good one. On Wisconsin's actually a really good fight song too. I do like that. And then what was the other one that I had the other day that I was thinking of? Now I can't remember what it was. I had one in my head that I was like, oh yeah, I really like that one too. But it was a game that I was watching. I'd say probably Hail to the Victors would probably be the top choice of those.
Luckily, we don't have
I can't
we'll just keep the one we have.
Yeah, I can't do the Notre Dame one because that was our high school fight song, and I got so sick and tired of hearing it as well. So, yeah, that's probably the only reason why. I mean, otherwise, that's pretty iconic fight song as well.
Yeah, everybody knows that one.
But anyway, well, let's get into the preview of this week's game against Oregon. It's quite quite a matchup. I think once the college football playoff rankings get dropped, it will be a ranking or a matchup of ranked teams. We talked a little bit at times about the bias in the standing or the rankings to, it's been more prevalent lately. You look at teams like Iowa and Washington that are not ranked or just now getting ranked, and you've got teams like Tennessee that has beaten nobody, has three losses, and still ranked in the top 20.
Yeah,
but it's a way to prop up the SEC to have ranked wins and say, oh, we're just, our strength of record, our strength of schedule is so much tougher. Well, your strength of record is inflated by the rankings that are put in front of teams that aren't deserving.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you there.
And you don't have that same common respect for the other conferences. There are teams, 6-2 teams in the Big Ten that are not ranked, and all 6-2 teams, 2-loss teams or less in the SEC are ranked.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. Oh, well, but it means more. And this, the way they want to spin it with, oh, well, Alabama beat preseason ranked 13th ranked South Carolina. No, they beat 3-5 South Carolina, and barely.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's getting off on a tangent. That's for later. Let's talk about this Oregon team. What are your thoughts on this Oregon team?
I'll just give you some stats. I pulled some stats. Dante Moore's the quarterback. He is 145 of 203 passing for 1,772 yards and 71.4% completion percentage. He's thrown for 19 touchdowns while only throwing for 4 interceptions. From the rushing standpoint, Noah Whittingham and Jordan Davidson have both rushed for 51 times. Whittingham for 433 yards and Davidson for 352. Whittingham 4 TDs. He also has 7 receptions for 34 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Davidson has 10 touchdowns rushing and 7 receptions for 15 yards, but has not scored a receiving touchdown. The other guy that really does some pretty good things running the ball is D.R.A. Hill. He's 36 rushes, 357 yards for a 9.9 average. He scored 3 TDs. Yeah, it's pretty high. 3 receptions, 23 yards. From a receiving standpoint, the wideouts, the ones we got to watch out for, and there are really 3. 2 wide receivers and a tight end. Wide receiver DeCorian Moore, 28 catches, 443 yards and 3 TDs. Also, wide receiver Gary Bryant, 24 catches, 277, 4 TDs. And here's the one that we got to really kind of pay attention to, because this is taking a page right out of Iowa's book. Their tight end, name of Kenyon Sadiq, 22 catches, 311 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So he leads the team in receiving touchdowns. Their kicker, and just to give you a little background, since we're such a special teams dominated football program, their kicker is Atticus Sappington. I kind of like saying that name, Atticus Sappington. He is 30 of 30 on extra points. He has 8 of 11 on field goals, but however, he is not a long distance specialist. His longest kick is 42 yards. Their punter is James Ferguson Reynolds. Guess where he's from?
Australia.
Yeah, I don't think you can punt in the United States without being Australian. 17 punts. Not anymore. Yeah, 17 punts, 42.2 average with a 53 long, and he's put 10 out of his 17 inside the 20. So he's kind of an accuracy specialist, kicks him inside the 20. Give you some NCAA rankings as far as how they rank, and I only pulled a few here. I wanted total defense, total offense. Okay, so total defense, Oregon is rated 4th nationally. Iowa is 2nd nationally, so it's going to be a defensive game. Total offense, Oregon is 9th. Iowa is 119th. Fewest penalties, Oregon's number 13, Iowa's number 1. Kickoff return defense, this is kind of where I think Iowa might have the advantage. Oregon is 89, while Iowa is number 6. I've got some keys to Iowa winning the game, if you care to hear those. I think Iowa needs to win the turnover battle, number 1. I think they need to limit their penalties. They need to keep everything in front of them. No long plays, no long passes from Oregon. And they also need to keep in front of the sticks. No second and longs, no second and 10s, no second and 13s, that kind of thing. And then Iowa needs to play an elite defense or an elite special teams and also play an elite defense. And I think, honestly, the biggest thing that's going to help Iowa is that home crowd. They're going to be really excited to play this game. That they know what's on the line. 2:30 p.m. start. They've had a chance to tailgate since about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Some of them, a lot of them probably around 6 o'clock. So they're going to be pretty amped up for the game. And if the weather is anything like they're talking about, it's not going to be as great as this week during the week. So there's a chance Saturday could be a little like rainy and like 38 to 40. So I don't know if I guess that's going to help whoever rushes the ball the best.
Yeah.
And that might be Iowa, but we'll see.
Yeah. The thing that I've noticed, and yeah, don't get me wrong. Oregon is a very, very good team. They're very talented. But I've noticed that the teams that kind of are able to push them around in the trenches are the ones they struggle with. The teams that are more physical and tend to lean on them. And I think that's kind of Iowa's style. Because I mean, I wouldn't take the Wisconsin game as a barometer. But Wisconsin did lean on them a little bit and took them a little bit out of their game. The one you want to take into the best barometer is Indiana. Indiana and possibly Penn State. Penn State kind of was a little more physical with them. But Indiana definitely was more physical. And watching that game, it was very evident they were more physical. Oregon wants to finesse you, for the most part. I'm not saying that they're not going to be a physical team, but their MO is to be more of a finesse speed team, which are the teams, honestly, Iowa tends to struggle with. But I think Iowa's got a different nuance to them than they have in years past. This is not the same team that you've seen over the past 3 or 4 years. They have the ability to be a little bit more multidimensional. Honestly, they could probably come out in a triple option and be very effective. And there are certain elements of that could be very effective against an Oregon team too. I think that's where Oregon has, that's where Iowa could have the advantage, is having that extra blocker for the quarterback run, the designed quarterback runs. It's where you've got that extra man in the box, and you could take care of that by having an extra blocker, just one less person to account for. That's where Iowa could have an advantage. And like you said, I think the crowd, the home field, the time of year, that is playing in Iowa's favor. I would prefer this to be played at 11 a.m., but it wasn't. We'll take what we can. But I think ultimately this is going to be a game that's going to come down similar to, I think it's really going to be similar to the Indiana game. Both teams are going to play strong defense. It's not going to be a high scoring affair. I think people have said 28-20, and I'm like, I don't foresee either team getting 28 on the other. I just don't see that. Granted, I didn't foresee Iowa blowing out Minnesota 41-3 or throttling Wisconsin 37-0. Didn't see it coming, but I think this is going to be a defensive slugfest. It's probably going to be a 20-13, 20-17, 21-17 type of game. Hopefully we're on the plus side of that. I think we could be on the plus side of it. And I think if they get past that, I've watched USC play. I think they can rush the ball against USC, even though that is out in California, but that's 2:30 start as well.
Yes.
I think, based on what Nebraska was able to do, Nebraska should beat them. I think if Dylan Raiola doesn't go down, Nebraska probably beats them. Same thing, been said about Iowa. If Gronowski doesn't go down, I think Iowa beats Indiana.
Probably.
It's a lot of what ifs. If that happened, but I do think this is going to be a interesting game, and it's going to show a lot about both teams. And I said this over the weekend, watching Indiana play, and I've watched them play, 5 or 6 times this year. The more I watch Indiana play, the more impressed I am with what Iowa did against Indiana. And I think, obviously, Indiana's beaten Oregon at Oregon.
Mhm.
So I think Indiana's a better team than Oregon, and Iowa played them tougher than anybody has all year. So I think this is a game that Iowa can win. And, history says anything, Oregon does tend to struggle coming off a bye week, especially on a bye week where they have to travel. So maybe that's in our favor as well. And plus, I think guys are getting a little bit more healthy for us. That'll be nice too.
One of the things about you when you talk about the Indiana Oregon game, and one of the things that I paid attention to when I did watch that game, and that was a very nip and tuck game clear up to like the fourth quarter when Indiana kind of pulled away. And I think that's what you're talking about, when you alluded to the physicality of Indiana and the finesse of Oregon. I think Indiana kind of took Oregon out of their game and then leaned on them in the fourth quarter. And that's why they were able to pull away in the fourth quarter is they out physicaled them and took control of the situation where Oregon just couldn't do what they wanted to do anymore. They were just completely out of their game. They were pulled into the kind of game that Indiana wanted to play. So Indiana controlled the tempo of that game. They controlled the physicality of that game, and it got Oregon out of their style of play. And that's why they were able to pull away. It was a 30-20 win, and it was pretty close. And I think maybe even Indiana scored the last, was it 10 points of the game? I think it was 20-20 at one point.
It was tied at 20.
Yeah. And so, if Iowa can stay in the game early, and I think we can do exactly what Indiana did, is just lean on them enough that with the cold weather, if we have cold weather and the rain, it might just take a little bit of the motivation out of them, so to speak. I shouldn't say the will to play because they got a lot on the line just like we do, just like Iowa does.
Right.
So I don't think that's going to be a situation because this might be, if you think about it, this might be a play-in game. Even though we've got a lot of season left, there's still 3 games after this, but this might be the play-in game. The winner of this game, if they should happen to win out,
could vault you right in there.
Could vault you in there. Even if Oregon would happen to lose and then continue to win, they might be the 4th team in if the Big Ten gets a 4th team in.
Yeah.
They'd only have 2 losses if they went out.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'd have quality wins too because they have USC and they have Washington as well.
And their 2 losses would be to number 2 ranked Indiana, and then on the road to Iowa, who would be probably ranked on Tuesday because they're going to go by the playoff rankings from here on out on what number goes in front of your name. So Tuesday we find that out, and I suspect Iowa's going to be anywhere between 20 and 23 if I had to guess.
I kind of feel like they're going to be like 18 or 19.
Well,
that's where I feel like they're going to be, but I could be wrong.
One thing too, you got to remember, adding to the excitement of Saturday is that Big Noon will be there.
Yep.
You'll have all those guys in the panel that sit up there and the talking heads, and that'll add some excitement, even though it is a CBS game. So folks, even though Fox's Big Noon's going to be there, it's still going to be a CBS game. So Make sure you watch your listings for that wherever you are.
I mean, ultimately, I think it's going to be a very good game. It is kind of there's still a lot of season to play, and you still have to take care of business against USC and Michigan State and Nebraska. I think, and we can talk about this in a bit, I think the Nebraska game got a little bit easier going forward, but you never know. It just depends. But going back to the Oregon thing, the teams that have a very stout defense are the teams that have given them troubles too. I think they struggled to get against Penn State. They basically came back late. I think Penn State wore down in that situation.
Yep.
For big game, Franklin kind of caused himself his own demise there. But, again, Indiana, that's a very talented defense. That's a top 5 defense as well. you know, I think that is advantage Iowa. You know, playing at home, November, you know, Iowa always plays better as the season progresses. November's a very strong month for Iowa.
Typically.
You know, I hope I'm not setting myself up for a huge letdown, and this is a, you know, a beat down of epic proportions that we haven't had for a while. I hope that's not the case, but I think this will be a good game.
This doesn't seem like that team that lost 42-3 to Michigan, that
No.
gets blown out, you know, and loses by 28 points every time they go out and see somebody with a number in front of their name. This doesn't seem like that kind of team this year. I think that they can play with anybody. They've proven it. I mean, number 2 Indiana, they had their closest game of the season against Iowa. So if Iowa can play the kind of game that they're capable of playing and that they've shown that they can play, I give Iowa better than a puncher's chance in this game. I know that some of the stats, just watched one just right before we came on that had Oregon like at a 66% winning percentage chance of winning. I thought that was a little bit high on their point. I thought maybe, you know, at this point, I think it's a 50-50. Really, I don't think one team is an advantage over the other, even though the rankings say, you know, Oregon's number 6 and Iowa, you know, whatever it'll be, 24 in the coaches poll, unranked in the AP. But we'll see what all this goes tomorrow when the real playoff rankings come out. That's what really matters at this point. Those preseason rankings, like you've said before, and I agree, they're just something that it gets people to talk. That's really all it is. It's not scientific. They just kind of go in and look, hey, what do they got coming back from last year that had a good team, blah, 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 and that's what they look at. They don't take into consideration what could happen at the end, you know, during the season as far as injuries or coaching issues or whatever the case may be. I mean, get Penn State, for example. They were number 1 and number 2 coming in, depending on who you asked. They're struggling. They haven't won a Big Ten game this year. I mean, so you just have to kind of take that stuff kind of as a, you know, as a guide, but don't let it rule your life and don't make bets based on that. I wouldn't anyway.
Personally, I would like to see Iowa not be ranked in the college football playoff rankings and have that chip on their shoulder a little bit. Keep that chip on their shoulder. Sometimes a team gets ranked and they feel like they've made it, and it's like they let up a little bit. I don't know that this is that team, but I just kind of sometimes that, you know, you get a little into your head of, oh, well, we're a good team now. You know,
well,
I think that's what happened to Iowa State.
Yeah. Regardless of whether they are in the top 25 or not, just win your games, and I guarantee you'll be there. They will not leave a 2-loss Iowa team out if they win out. There's no way. And if they do, there should be an investigation.
Yeah.
So
especially if they lose a 2-loss Iowa team out to put in a 3-loss or something like that SEC team that, oh, well, their strength of record. Oh, now give me a break.
No, because if Iowa knocks off Oregon and wins out, beats USC on the road, those are strong wins.
Nebraska on the road.
Which like you said earlier, with them losing their quarterback.
It's a rivalry game still.
Yeah. And I'm sure that this young player that's their quarterback that has a redshirt freshman.
TJ Lateef. He's a true freshman, I think.
True freshman. He's gonna struggle a little bit, but he's also going to get better each game. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the season, you know, he's going to have 3 more games to get prepared and get things figured out. And he will be the primary guy in the practice now that he probably wasn't before. And, you know, running quarterbacks tend to give Iowa fits. And this kid's a runner. And so is Dante Moore. So those are things that Iowa just has to, you know, my biggest concern is that, and I know that Nebraska is already bowl eligible because they've got their 6th win, but I don't want it to be a situation where Iowa has to beat Nebraska to get into at this point, I kind of hope it is actually to beat Nebraska to get into the playoff. Because that would just add motivation for Nebraska to knock Iowa off and say, you know, we kept Iowa out of the playoff.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how things play out. You know.
Yeah.
All you can do is watch and play the games, and you know, all we can do is be spectators and see what unfolds. So
exactly right.
Well, let's shift gears just a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about the landscape of college football this weekend. Then we'll jump into a little bit, go back into some Iowa stuff here in a minute. But what surprised you, or what jumped out at you over the weekend, or did anything?
Um, Nothing really. I expected that Iowa State would lose to Arizona State. I just didn't expect them to look as bad as they did. They've got questions over there about quarterback, and I was watching a pod earlier with Williams and Hassel, and they were talking about how Iowa State's looking at trying to maybe look at a different quarterback. And I was like, that was completely unthinkable at the beginning of the season. Rocco Beck was going to be their guy, and he was going to do great things. Well, now they've lost 4 straight games, and now they're looking at him and saying, what do we got behind him? And I don't understand that at all. I mean, this is their guy, but and if they don't change, I guess I understand why. And if they do change, I guess I should probably understand why then too. But this is not an Iowa State podcast, so we're gonna go right past them. As far as that, Texas almost blowing it against Vanderbilt. I didn't care one way or the other.
I think they're Midland teams that are overinflated by their numbers.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's a pretender also. I don't know why they're still ranked. They haven't done anything. We talked about them earlier.
I think Oklahoma's a pretender.
Yeah, there's some teams that I don't think are as good as their ranking.
Yeah.
I don't think Miami's very good. They got beat again. They were good early. They've kind of lost it. I think Georgia Tech has surprised me. They're better than I thought they would be.
I think, the one thing I want to preface is I don't want to say, when I say I don't think they're very good, I'm not saying that I think they're horrible. I just don't think they're as good as their ranking. I don't want to get people all riled up of, well, Texas is this and that. And yeah, that's fine. They're a good team. It's just I don't think they're as good as their ranking.
Yeah.
So, just want to preface that. The one that I think is overinflated is probably Virginia. Based on who they've played, what they've, and again, we're taking into account the strength of schedule or whatever, but I don't see a whole lot of quality wins on their resume for them to be ranked. Yeah, they're ranked up there, 15th?
Yeah, one loss.
They're 8-1.
Mm-hmm. Do they play Georgia Tech, or have they played Georgia Tech?
Well, I don't think they have.
They're ACC. I don't pay much of attention to the ACC.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who they lost to. I thought that was early.
Yeah, it was pretty early. 3rd or 4th game, maybe 4th game.
So I don't know if it was within the conference or if it was an on-conference game that they.
Well, now let me ask you something. The Big 12's acting like they're going to try to get 2 in. That's going to end up hurting either the SEC or the Big 10, or maybe even Group of 5.
Group of 5 is guaranteed 1.
Could the Group of 5 just pick Notre Dame and say everybody else is SOL?
Notre Dame does not classify as part of Group of 5. Notre Dame is their own little entity for some reason.
Yeah.
We
got to stop playing footsie with them and just either say get into a conference or you're going to be left by the wayside. If this, the way things are moving right now, you're going to be either on the side of the road watching everybody go by, or you're going to have to get on board.
Yeah, I would agree. It's and you talk about the Big 12, and the scenario where I think they could get 2 in is BYU, Texas Tech in a final, and Texas Tech beating an undefeated BYU team.
Yeah.
That is how I see them getting 2 in. I don't know that an undefeated BYU beating a Texas Tech and giving them a second loss allows Texas Tech to have, they should technically, their strength of schedule should be good enough to get them in, but I don't know that the committee would put them in there just because that's the way they are.
Well, they were a 1-bid league last year. Man,
yeah.
It's hard to predict that what they're going to do. I personally think it's still 1-bid league, but
I would agree.
I could see a second team coming in if the SEC has some 3-loss teams that are trying to get in. I think you would go with a 2-loss or a 1-loss Big 12, especially a one loss. Like, the scenario you just said, BYU and Texas Tech playing, BYU loses, gets their only loss of the season. I still think you take them. And then you could seriously probably put Texas Tech in. I don't think anybody to argue with that at this point.
No, and that's not discounting who else is still up there that's legitimately has a chance in the Big 12. I was going to say Cincinnati, maybe.
Yeah,
I think Cincinnati got throttled by Utah, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think those two teams are the two that you're the only two out of the Big 12 you're going to be able to.
By the way, NC State was the team that beat Virginia, and it was the second game of the year.
So then look forward down there. Does Georgia Tech play Virginia? So one of those two, if they play,
no,
they would have to play in the championship game then.
Virginia has Wake Forest, Duke, and Virginia Tech left.
I could see the Duke game being maybe a stumbling block, but they would have to play in the championship game, probably Georgia Tech and Virginia, right?
I think so. I would think so.
Otherwise, they might play themselves out before they even get there. They lose.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Big 12 here as well. So, yeah, Cincinnati, I think, played themselves out because they have a second loss. And I think that, Houston's got a second loss. So, yeah, you're looking at basically an 8-1 Texas Tech and an 8-0 BYU at 8-9. Those are your two viable options.
Yeah. But if Texas Tech would happen to lose to BYU and get that other loss, I think then that point you're just BYU.
It depends. I think it depends on how they lose. If it's like BYU kicks the last second field goal and beats them like by 2 or something, I think you got to seriously consider it that Texas Tech is deserving because they've played some quality teams now. They beat them pretty handily. Like they beat Utah pretty handily. Now, that's really the only major ranked team that they've played thus far that I can remember. Yeah. So take that into consideration. But although I think didn't they play? Let's see. Yeah, they beat Utah. Well, Houston was, I think, ranked at the time. Arizona State beat them.
Aren't they? Doesn't their quarterback, Texas Tech quarterback, isn't he out? Or did he come back?
I don't know if he's out for. Oh, well, never mind. You're not going to have a potential undefeated against a one-loss team.
Play each other?
They play each other this weekend.
Oh, nice. Oh, that'd be a good game.
At Tech.
I hope that's an 11 o'clock game.
It is.
All right. I'll probably watch that.
So, yeah, there's a good chance that there isn't only be a one bid league unless strange things happen.
Yeah. Well,
so.
And hopefully then the ACC is probably only going to be a one bid league also.
Yeah, I can't think that there'd be more than
the championship game if Georgia Tech and Virginia would happen to play each other, and unless Virginia would happen to beat Georgia Tech, then you got that same scenario, but that we had over in the Big 12 that we were talking about. But now we know that's not going to happen. So, okay. I still think 4-4 and then one group of 5 probably and Notre Dame. And then that just leaves one for each ACC and Big 12.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. It's
I just hope that they don't squander the opportunity, the Big 10, to take 4 teams as opposed to just getting 3 in.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that the SEC bias doesn't play its way in there to get a 3-loss team in over a 2-loss team.
That SEC bias is only through AP poll and some of those coaches polls. And I think that the playoff rankings will not lean that way.
You'd be surprised.
Well, I'm hopeful anyway.
Yeah. I don't know who the head of the committee is this year. So anyway, well, let's shift gears slightly and let's talk a little bit about women's and men's basketball. We got that coming up. Women's tonight against Southern. I did watch them last week against Ashland. It's a Division II team, so you don't take too much from that other than the fact that it is a very good Division II team.
Like really good.
But the fact that, Iowa beat them by 40?
Yeah.
That's pretty. You'd expect Iowa to win pretty handily, but by 40 and having a 42 or 44 point lead at one point I was like, okay, yeah, this is a better team than I was anticipating. I was very impressed with Emily Rodriguez and Chit Chat, right? And I thought Layla Hayes showed that she belongs. Ava Hayden has improved from last year. I just think there's pieces there. Journey Houston looked pretty good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish Tegan Mulaney had not gotten hurt.
Yeah,
like the team
she's questionable for tonight's game too.
Okay. Yeah.
So not sure what her injury was. I think she got maybe a bone bruise or something.
The good thing is she's not somebody that we would, she's not somebody we're relying on to be a high scoring component of the team. So not necessarily having her in the first couple of games isn't going to be a bad thing. That's no disrespect to her whatsoever. She's good quality depth, but
she's going to be needed down the line.
Yeah,
for sure.
But yeah, I thought they played well. There's things that obviously you need to clean up. That's the first time you're playing against some regular competition, so you're going to find those things, and you want to find those things.
Yep.
You don't want them popping up when the games actually count. So be interesting tonight. I think they're 23.5 point favorite tonight.
Oh, I would assume that they'll probably win by more than that.
Yeah, I would have to think so. And then the men tip off tomorrow. I shouldn't say kickoff. They tip off tomorrow against Robert Morris.
Yep, 7:30 on the Big Ten Network.
Yep, homecoming for Alvaro Forgueras.
Jeff Levering and Dress Settles on the call for that one.
Okay.
So we got the hometown boy there.
I did see that Tavian Banks will be available.
Oh, he will. They must have handled the punishment in-house somehow.
Yep, it's basically said it was all done in-house. I don't know what it was. He didn't elaborate on it other than,
had some
strike one.
Extra running to do, I imagine.
The only detriment I would say is I hope that doesn't set a bad precedent that you get a mulligan if you do something stupid.
Yeah.
I could see the narrative from outside of the team, the opposing fan bases of, well, yeah, you can go out and beat people up at a bar and you can still play. I don't want that to be the narrative. That's the one thing I was like, I kind of, if you're going to lose him for a game, first game's probably not a bad time to lose him. But again, that's coach's decision to make that. And I'm looking at it from a different perspective of not wanting to be embarrassed by opposing fan. He's just like, yes.
What are you expecting from them on Tuesday night? What are you looking for from them? Is there any specific person, player, or do you want to see what do you want to see out of this team on Tuesday?
I want to see a team that plays hard on defense. That's something we haven't seen for eons. Fundamental, because that's the one thing I will give Fran a lot of credit for. The team didn't turn the ball over a lot, so they played good fundamentals. They just didn't play defense,
right?
And they could score. I want to see somebody other than Bennett Sturt step up and be a scorer. But I think realistically, Iowa winning by 17 to 20 points is probably the most realistic. I don't look for them to beat them, like by 30 or 40, like years past. But I would look for it to be more of a 75-55 type of game, 72-50, something like that, where there's definitely that defensive improvement. You can see it in the results. But I don't see this being a team that's going to go out there and put up 80 or 90 points while holding the opponent to 70 or 60 or 50 or whatever. This is going to be more of a traditional basketball scoring of, the 70 to 50, the 70 to 60 type of games. They're not going to be the 99 to 96 types like the Fran McCaffrey NBA marathons are.
Yeah, I agree. The defense is the number one. I think that's why we we moved on from Fran was that there was no defense, and that's why we brought in McCollum. So yes, defense number one, but also I think what I've been hearing about is the exhibition. Well, I shouldn't say exhibition, scrimmage games that they've been playing, like St. Louis and Texas Tech. They struggle to shoot the three, and I want to see Iowa shooting the three ball a little bit better than what I've been hearing, which has been not good at all, pretty poor, in fact. So I'd like to see them get that outside stroke going and just fundamentals. I'd like to get to learn the players a little bit. That's kind of the first game you always want to watch to learn who the players are, numbers, names, that kind of thing. Because we haven't had that opportunity to see them prior to tomorrow night. So, I've seen just the media day, the faces, but until I see them play, it's going to be a learning experience for us, for sure, as fans, to learn how each player plays their position and who goes in and who replaces who, and who gets pulled early, that kind of thing, who plays the least amount of minutes, who plays the most amount of minutes. Of course, that's going to be dictated as to how well the game's going. Obviously, the guys lower on the bench probably play more towards the end. That's great. I hope that happens. But that first game for me is just basically learning the players, watching them play defense. I'm going to be keyed in on that. I'm really going to be watching who's playing a good brand of defense. That has been something that has been so missed for so long. And we've sit here and talked about it time and time again. I wish I would play defense last year, the year before that. If we could play even a little bit better defense, we would win 6-7 more games a year and be in the tournament easily. And we just didn't have that. And so that's what I'm keying in on, is playing defense, being fundamentally sound, taking care of the ball. But I also understand first game, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be some issues with guys not knowing where other guys are going to be and making passes that maybe, I thought you were going to be there. You're not. You cut to the basket. I didn't expect that. There'll be some of that. They'll get that figured out. I think Robert Morris will be better than you expect. They were pretty decent last year. They made the tournament. I still think you're right. I think 70-50, 70. To me, a perfect scenario is that for Robert Morris doesn't make 50 points. Mid to upper 40s, I think I'm fine with. That tells me that Iowa's playing a good defense and they're controlling the tempo of the game. And I'm not going to say that I don't want them to just like slow the game down and basically have the same thing that we see every year in football in basketball. I want to still see some of that offense.
I don't want to go back to the lick lighter slow down.
God, no. But yeah, like you said, you hit it on the head earlier when you said like a 72-50, Iowa plays a more standard brand of basketball, no more 96, 99, 96s, no more 102, 99 stuff. Those are fun, but Iowa's never really done traditionally well with those. They always fall a little bit on the wayside. They never score enough and they never play good enough defense. This time, I just want to see a standard basketball score, 74-52, 68-48. That to me, I would be happy with. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, God, no, I want to see a high-scoring game. I don't.
Yeah, we've had that.
I want to see a fundamentally sound basketball team making good decisions and improving.
Which, I think that's the key right there is improvement and fundamentals. That's the things to see in the first few games. And then as the competition starts to ramp up, you want to get that out of get those first game jitters type things out of the way. You want to get those early season miscommunications figured out. So that when you're playing, Xavier here in a week and a half, those aren't the problems anymore. So, okay.
We want to keep this one short because the game's going to start. The girls' game's going to start here in about 45 minutes. So we want to make sure we get our this done and then have supper and still have a chance to watch the game.
Enjoy the game. So,
yeah.
Yep. So I don't have anything else. Anything else from you?
No, just go Hawks on Saturday and go Hawks this week for the basketball teams. And
Yep, I'll have two games, two men's games before the next football game. You'll have another women's game on Sunday after tonight. So
let's have an undefeated
full
week.
swing. Yeah, let's get an undefeated week. That'd be great.
That would be great.
So, well, as usual, if you like what you see here, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Check us out on our social medias. Unfortunately, not being able to put out on the shorts lately just because of the new recording platform. We'll try to get that figured out here shortly. I just have not had a chance to do that. But keep an eye out for that and the TikTok stuff coming back eventually. But yeah, the Spotify and YouTube all still good. So, interact with us when you can. Buy some merch if you want to buy some merch. We'd be happy to have you guys promoting us out there. Appreciate your listenership and say go Hawks.
Go Hawks.